This is the Douglas mine. It extracted heavy mineral sands that contain critical minerals worth $617,818,000 worth of critical sands from an area that was once an ancient beach shoreline. This is how it looked at peak operation, and this is how it looks today. Rehabilitation work is ongoing, with the aim to restore the land back to its original state. To do this, backfilling of the open pits with topsoil is underway, and the soil is mixed with organic matter. I made a few videos on the geology of these mines and you can find the links to them in the description. This video is about the rehabilitation of the site, because Douglas serves as a great example of what responsible mining looks like. What makes this place so interesting isn't just what was taken out of the ground, but what's being put back. Because unlike hard rock mines that leave behind massive voids or permanent scars, this operation was always designed to move like a wave across the landscape. A strip is mined, processed and then almost immediately rebuilt. And that idea of mining as something temporary rather than permanent is what defines everything you're seeing here today. The Douglas mine sits within the Murray Basin, a region that, millions of years ago, was covered by a shallow inland sea. Along its margins, waves sorted sediments into long, narrow beach ridges. These ridges concentrated heavy minerals like zircon, rutile and ilmenite, the same materials that would eventually be extracted here. So when mining began, it didn't target a single ore body in the traditional sense. Instead, it followed these ancient shorelines, cutting long, shallow trenches through what was once a coastal system frozen in time. At peak operation, the landscape would have looked almost surgical. Long linear strips of exposed earth, machinery advancing steadily forward, and behind them, a landscape in transition. But what's crucial is that the disturbance never spread endlessly outward. It moved. And as it moved, something else followed right behind it: rehabilitation. At Douglas, rehabilitation doesn't wait until the end of mining. Instead, it begins during mining. As one strip is excavated, the previous one is already being rebuilt. The pit left behind isn't abandoned. It becomes the foundation for the next stage. Coarse sand and clay tailings, the leftover material after the valuable minerals have been removed, are pumped back into the void. These materials originally came from this exact ground, but they've been completely transformed in the process. What was once a structured soil profile is now a slurry, disaggregated, mixed and stripped of its natural layering. And this is where the real challenge begins, because filling a hole is easy, rebuilding a soil system is not. Once the pit is backfilled, the land is reshaped, subtle gradients are recreated, drainage lines are re-established, and the surface is contoured to match what was there before. This might sound minor, but in a place like the Wimmera, where the land is incredibly flat, even small changes in elevation can determine whether water drains away or sits and stagnates. Poor drainage can lead to salinity, waterlogging, and long-term loss of productivity, so getting the shape right isn't cosmetic, it's fundamental. But the most critical step happens before any of this even begins. Before mining starts, the soil is stripped in layers. Topsoil, subsoil, and overburden are removed separately and stockpiled. This might seem like a logistical detail, but it's actually the key to everything, because when it comes time to rebuild the land, those layers go back in the same order. First, the subsoil is returned. Then the topsoil is spread across the surface, and with it comes something incredibly important: life. And speaking of rehabilitating land, there's actually a way people are helping restore ecosystems on a much bigger scale. You've probably noticed in my videos I spend a lot of time around mines, old workings, and places where the landscape's been heavily altered. And while I love the geology and the history behind it, I've always believed there's a responsibility that comes with that. If we're going to take from the earth, we should be putting something back. Ideally restoring it to what it once was, or even better. That's actually why I became a member of Planet Wild. Planet Wild is basically like crowdfunding for nature, but done properly. It's a community of over 20,000 people, including myself, and every month we fund a new, carefully selected mission. That could be restoring forests, protecting ocean ecosystems, or bringing endangered species back from the brink. And what I really like about it is we actually get to see the results. Within about 30 days, they release a full video, right here on YouTube, showing exactly what the community achieved. It's not just talk, it's real on-the-ground impact. For example, in one of their recent missions, they helped build this network of unique wildlife crossings in North America to reduce wildlife collisions. For me personally, it lines up perfectly with how I think mining should work. You extract resources, yes, but then you actively restore and rebuild ecosystems. Planet Wild is doing exactly that, just on a global scale. And the best part is you can be part of it without even leaving your house. Your membership directly funds these missions. You get updates, reports, even little badges for each project you support. And you're part of a community that actually cares about this. So if you want to join a growing community that's making a real difference in nature, consider becoming a Planet Wild member. You can contribute whatever amount feels right to you. Every dollar genuinely counts. And here's something cool. The first 100 people to join Planet Wild with my code geology4 will get their first month for free at the link in the description. You'll immediately be part of a real conservation mission, and you'll be able to see the results for yourself in less than 30 days on their YouTube channel. No catch, you can cancel anytime. If you want to see them in action, check out their Wildlife Crossings mission link below. Thank you to Planet Wild for sponsoring this video. The topsoil isn't just dirt. It contains seeds, microorganisms, fungi, organic matter, and the entire biological foundation of the ecosystem that existed before mining. Without it, the land wouldn't just be infertile, it would be biologically dead. Even with this careful reconstruction, the soil that's created isn't identical to what was there before. The process of mining and backfilling destroys natural soil structure. The way particles bind together, the pore spaces that allow air and water to move, the network created by roots, fungi, and microbes, all of that has to be rebuilt. And it doesn't happen instantly. This is where rehabilitation shifts from engineering to ecology. After the soil layers are replaced, the land is stabilised. Cover crops are planted, fast-growing species that protect the surface from erosion and begin the process of rebuilding organic matter. Their roots penetrate the soil, breaking it apart, creating pathways for water, and feeding microbes as they grow and decay. If legumes are used, they also fix nitrogen, one of the most important nutrients for plant growth. Over time, this begins to change the soil. Organic matter accumulates, microbial populations recover, and nutrients start cycling again. But this is a gradual process. Fertility isn't restored overnight, it's engineered back over years. In some cases, fertilizers are applied to accelerate this process. Nitrogen, phosphorus, and other nutrients may be added to support plant growth while the natural systems recover. But the goal isn't to rely on these inputs permanently, it's to kickstart a system that can eventually sustain itself. As the soil stabilizes and fertility improves, the land is transitioned back to its intended use. In many areas, that means agriculture. Crops are planted, grazing resumes, and the land begins to function once again as part of the surrounding farming landscape. In other areas, native vegetation is reintroduced, restoring habitats and biodiversity. But rehabilitation doesn't end when plants start growing. In many ways, that's just the beginning. Long-term monitoring is a critical part of the process. Soil productivity is measured, vegetation success is assessed, water movement is tracked, salinity levels are monitored. Because even if the land looks normal, there can be underlying issues that can only become apparent over time. If problems are detected, if yields are lower than expected, if water begins to pool and if salts start to accumulate, then intervention is required. Adjustments are made, drainage may be improved, soil treatments may be applied. In Victoria, mining companies are legally required to ensure that rehabilitated land meets specific standards. If it doesn't, they have to fix it. And then there's the final stage, removing the mine itself. Processing plants are dismantled, infrastructure is removed, contaminated materials are cleaned up. In some cases, this includes dealing with naturally occurring radioactive materials that were concentrated during processing. Water and soil are treated where necessary, ensuring that nothing harmful is left behind. By the time this is complete, the goal is simple, that you wouldn't know a mine was ever there. But this is where the reality becomes more nuanced. Even with all these steps, the land isn't perfectly restored. Soil structure, once disrupted, is incredibly difficult to fully recreate. The mixing of clays and sands during backfilling can affect how water moves through the soil. Some areas may drain differently, others may hold water longer than they should. In agricultural zones, this can translate to variations in yield. Some patches may perform just as well as they did before, others may lag behind. And this is why monitoring continues for years, sometimes decades, because true rehabilitation isn't about how the land looks after a few months. It's about how it functions over the long term. What Douglas demonstrates is that rehabilitation is not a single action, it's a sequence, a process that moves from physics to biology to productivity. First, the landform is rebuilt, then the soil layers are restored, then life returns and fertility develops, and finally, the land proves itself through use. It's a reconstruction of an entire system, and when you look at it from above, from satellite imagery or aerial photos, you can actually see this process frozen in space. Parallel lines across the landscape, some freshly mined, some newly filled, some already green with crops. It's like a timeline of transformation, laid out side by side. This is what responsible mining looks like when it's done properly, not because it leaves no impact, but because it acknowledges the impact, plans for it, and works methodically to reverse it. Because at the end of the day, the goal isn't just to extract resources, it's to ensure that when the mining stops, the land can continue to support life, productivity, and ecosystems long into the future. And that's what makes Douglas more than just a mine. It's a demonstration of whether we can take something valuable from the earth and still leave it capable of sustaining what comes next. And just a quick reminder, if you want to be part of something that's actually restoring ecosystems around the world, check out Planet Wild using the link in the description. The first 100 people to join with my code Geology4 will get their first month for free, and you'll be able to see the real impact of those missions in their monthly YouTube videos. If you want to see it for yourself first, watch their Mission Building Wildlife Crossings linked as a video recommendation here on screen. I hope you found this as interesting as I did, and as always, thanks for watching. Before I end this video, I'd like to give a big shout out to my Patreon and YouTube members. Thank you so much to everyone that helps to support this channel.